Welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. This podcast is a production of Swaim Strategies, a consulting firm dedicated to nonprofit fundraising events. We're coming to you today from the studios of the AV department. Please welcome our hosts, Kristen Steele and Samantha Swaim.
Hello and welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. It is official. We are in the final countdown to Elevate. We hope that you already have it on your calendar. But before we jump in today, I want to tell you all about it for all of our fundraising event professional friends. Planning a fundraising event can feel overwhelming, but here's what we know. It's true.
No.
When you get it right, you can create something very powerful. You bring people closer to your mission, you turn moments into movements, and you amplify the impact of the work that matters most. And that's exactly why we created Elevate, a space where our community comes together to make planning successful events not just possible, but easier, I promise. So mark your calendars for March 3rd and 4th in 2026. We're gathering at Avenue in Portland, Oregon. And if you can't join us in person, you can attend virtually because we are hybrid. You'll walk away with practical tools, real strategies to strengthen your storytelling, deepen your donor connections, and design experiences that truly resonate. We have an incredible slate of speakers this year. We're very proud to be hosting some of the leading thought leaders in the sector, and we've designed Elevate to really take your fundraising event to the next level. So jump over to swaimstrategies.com and join us at Elevate, or click the link below in the show notes. And today's guest will be joining us there too. So today we are talking about a topic we think is so important as we kick off 2026. We have the team from the Cause Catalyst Co. here joining us. They are fractional fundraisers who step in and support you in fundraising efforts by picking up the pieces that you just don't have time for. We all need that, right? If you need thank you notes, they got you. If you need a strategic plan, they can do that. If you need interim development director, they can do that too. If you want to learn more about fractional fundraisers, be sure to tune into our past episode with Erica Soto. We'll have it linked in the show notes for you. But today we have Erica joined by her team, Veronica and Amie. The whole team at Cause Catalyst is here to talk about the thing that they do best, the thing we lean on them for, the thing that they've taught us the most about, and that is stewardship. Such an important thing in the fundraising world. We're going to talk about what it is, how you do it, where you even get started. Friends, welcome to the Fundraising Elevator. We're so glad you're here.
We're glad to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Well, thanks for joining us. Amie is joining us from Idaho. Thank you for joining us. We have Veronica and Erica here in studio with us. Let's dive in. Let's talk stewardship. It's that thing that we hear so often in educational settings, at conferences. Experts say, we need stewardship. You just need to do stewardship. And the question is, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. Right? Yes. So we're excited to talk to you all about what that means.
So, very beginning. Let's start at the very beginning. Erica, I'm looking at you.
Okay.
What do we mean when we say stewardship?
Well, I'm going to say what we don't mean.
Thank you.
Yes.
I love definitions by negation. Let's go.
It's more than a thank you note. A lot of times the organizations we're working with, they think about stewardship and the definition they adhere to is like, we have to get the thank you out. Stewardship is far broader than that. And it's so much more magical than that. And really stewardship and the work that we do and the coaching that we do with our clients, it's about caring for our donors in a really thoughtful, meaningful way that really leads to relationships. That's what donor stewardship is all about. It's building relationships with your supporters and the people who care about the work that you do. And so when I'm thinking about building relationship with somebody, I'm probably not going to build like the quickest, best, strongest relationship through being a pen pal. That's not going to be a stellar stewardship. Stewardship is steps along the way over time that build trust, in confidence, and a pathway to engage with somebody about an important topic.
I love that. We have lots of stories of shared experiences where your team has led efforts around stewardship. I actually just had a conversation with the development director the other day that she pulled up for me her stewardship plan, and it got me going, plan, tools. Mm-hmm. Like there's so many things to think about because I think we're wearing all the hats, we have full plates, and we're trying to figure out how we move it forward. This particular development director had identified her key slate of folks that she was developing and stewarding a relationship with. And in it, she had monthly touch points that she was doing. And some of them were so thoughtful, like you guys are great gift givers. And that to me is like at the core of this is what's something that they would care about? I'm going to send them a note about this program, or I'm going to send them a little token from this program. And I just think that intentionality takes some time. It takes some intention, but I also think it takes a plan. And that's where you come in, friend. So Veronica, where do people start when you say you need stewardship?
Well, you need to know what you're doing, first of all.
Yeah.
When we come in, usually depending on the type of engagement, we just determine your development landscape. We see what's going well, and then we also see what you're struggling with. And then we start there, and then we kind of lay the bricks on top of that. And so a lot of the times that we see across the board, it's a data issue. It's an internal systems issue more than their desire for a relationship with their donors. And so we're just making sure that we can get their intentions and their desires and their visions into a plan. And then we have the internal systems to support it. I think people oftentimes forget about the systems part, but that's where Amie and I really come into play, and we think about the gift. You received the gift, now what? Who owns that? So when we come in, we think about those things, and that all supports a stewardship practice with the donor.
Yeah.
Well, I want to, like, for walking into a relationship with the development director and you're doing that assessment for them, and they're like, I'm imagining the development director that's like, I can't.
Yeah.
I have too much.
They can.
So when you're trying to coach them
They
to
will.
greatness and you're developing that plan, what's the starting point? Like, what are the things you're looking for in developing that? Like,
Well, the first thing is that we ask them for specific things. We have like a requested materials drive link, first of all, and we say, give us 3 to 5 years of donor data.
okay.
Start with
so
that
data.
first.
Start with data.
Start with data.
Okay.
Give us your stewardship letters. Give us your past appeals. Give us reports that you've sent us. Let's see the whole landscape.
How you're communicating
How
with your
you're
donors.
communicating with your donors. And so we evaluate all that. And then based on what you have and the capacity you have, we build on top of that. People have big dreams and we want you to get there eventually, but let's start with where you're at. If it's not sustained, if you can't sustain it, then it's not a feasible plan in my mind.
So is this your whole donor base, or is this like starting a plan that's maybe like a donor?
It could be both.
It could be both.
Yeah.
It could be both. And I think the thing that I see often is that the big dream gets the attention without doing the pre-work.
Yep.
And so we're putting strategies like just on, I hope this is right. And that's where there's the frustration where we see a lot of things fail or fall through the cracks. And so there has to be a half of a moment, like when you were going to say, what's the first thing to do? I was like, have them take a breath.
Yeah.
Like, really,
Actually,
yeah.
that is the first thing.
Let's take a breath because this is a big thing and our hearts want to do all of the things, but we're too unorganized, we're unfocused, we don't have the plan. And so I think by knowing what lives in your CRM, what does your donor landscape look like? How many donors do you even have? Like, that's a question I love to ask. Yeah. How many donors do you have in your database? What's the giving level? And if a development director doesn't know that, we need to just slow down, take that breath, and really look at the data, because the data will tell us what to do. Yeah. And depending on the capacity, this is where Amie and Veronica are like superpowers. They come to life, and that depending on how big the team is, we're able to scale the stewardship to what is sustainable for your team.
Yeah.
We don't want people to drown in this because then you're not going to show up very well when you're doing these touch points.
Right.
It's going to be frazzled. They're going to be unfinished. It's just going to feel disconnected. It was exactly the opposite of what we're trying to build when we're doing stewardship of natural connection and human touch. Yeah. So anyways, I think we just want to get to the outcome.
Yeah. Before jumping to the outcome.
Yes.
Yeah. Before we build the relationship.
Yes.
And actually, before that, the first thing we do in an assessment is we listen to the whole team. We take time to interview everybody on the staff and even donors. We ask to speak to a donor. And so we want to hear from the team, where are you feeling like you're doing a good job, or where do you feel really frazzled and you need help? And we also speak to one of their best and longtime donors and ask them what their experience has been that's the starting point. Then we get to the data, we hear all that, and then we move forward.
So before we jump into the tools, because you all have some really incredible resources and tools, I want you to evaluate me for a second.
Okay.
Fun.
That's scary.
You guys know what you're doing. I had an organization the other day in a training say to me, we have 15 donors. Like, we just have so few donors. We've been mostly government funded, and we're just now starting to make the shift to solicitation and outreach. Those donors are mostly friends, family of staff here. Where do we start? And I gave them some advice that I want your feedback on.
Okay.
I told them, I want you to think of one action every day you can take that connects you to those 15 people, whether it be one person a day. So I said, maybe you make a call one day and just check in on a donor. Maybe you send a note another day. Maybe it's an email another day. But I was like, I want you to think about those 15 people and how over the course of that month, you're going to talk to each one of them at least once. Yes? No?
I love it.
I
I
love
mean,
that.
it's a
Those
baby
listening,
step.
Amie
Yeah.
over here on the screen is
Is
nodding
nodding.
emphatically. So I'll take that as a good sign.
What do you think, Amie?
I think that
Yeah.
sounds amazing because what you're doing is you're training yourself that stewardship is a daily activity. It's not something that you do, this relational outreach. You don't do it right before an event when you're going to be asking somebody for a pre-committed gift. You're going to do it every day so that you are on a texting basis with your donors. You can say, hey, I here's the flower pot that I just made. I knew you would love this because I know that you're a gardener. You know, it's those little relational touches that really draw a donor in to the organization and help create that community that's behind the work that we do.
Yeah. Well, and I sort of threatened everyone when they showed up at the studio today that I had data to report. And I think this is a good time to drop it in because I think I loved how you started, Erica, I'm going to talk about what stewardship is not. Because what I want to do with this data is demystify a little bit why donors are doing what they do or not do. Because I think we work up stories in our head about like, oh, they must have had a blah, blah, blah and did a blah, 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 and they don't love us anymore.
Exactly.
So Impacts Research and Development analyzed $100,000
$1,000 donors.
No. Wrong. 100,000 donors. These donors had given $250 to $2,500 as a donation, but they hadn't donated in 2 years. They haven't made another donation during that time. And they asked them, why not? So these are the things. Almost 20%, they were never acknowledged. So 20% of your $100 bucket feels like low-hanging fruit, so to speak, right? Next, 16%, they were not asked again, right? And then we move into lack of communication about how funds were used, forgot to give, gave to another organization, changed priorities, like all of these things that are the minutia. The thing that fundraisers put in front of them as a barrier to asking was last on the list. The donor, 4.7% of these donors said that they were asked too often or too much. Like that, I throw that out there. So let's take that off the table at the top of this discussion.
Thank you.
Because there is so much in front of the ask that needs to happen. And Amie, you have some incredible stewardship tools.
Yeah, so some of the tools that are really simple that we use are like a giving table. So basically it's a way of tiering or segmenting your donors in a way that's sustainable for your organization and the team that you have. So kind of defining some specific segments that we can put a strategy to. We also have this whole menu of donor touch points that's basically a lot of different creative ways that you can reach out to your donors, that you can communicate with your donors. It's not just that handwritten thank you note. we want them to be meaningful and realistic and just to bring them into the community. So we have a whole menu, and then a simple gift entry and acknowledgement flow, like what happens when the donor makes a donation, like how does it get in your CRM, how does accounting get that information, who's responsible for the acknowledgements, who's responsible for thanking, who's going to pick up the phone and make a call. So we have a whole process of defining that. And then also, I'm a data person, and so I love a really clean CRM. So yeah, if you're getting stuck with old data, it's unreliable data. It's really going to trip you up when you're trying to steward your donors. So go ahead.
I love the idea of that flow, because I think to me that speaks to this 20%. I'm like, how do 20% of 100,000 people not get acknowledged? And it's like, well, have you sat down and actually looked at what the flow of information is from gift in to acknowledgement in inbox, so to speak? And we've partnered with you on clients where we've watched you do that, and they squirm. They're like, I just do the thing. I just do the thing. But what you're doing is actually breaking it down as a process so that they understand where the breakdown in that process is happening so that it can fix. And once it gets fixed, I don't want to say it's automated, because that starts to get us in the land of not seeing our donors.
But there's a rhythm.
But there's a rhythm, and there's ease, and there's a process through which we have some of those things happening on a regular basis, which should make our fundraisers feel, oh, if I have a system, it's not as hard. I don't have to hold on to as much of it.
I wanted to interrupt Amie on point 3 because we were jiving on this one. This is probably the biggest issue we're running into right now. If there's a fundraising problem, it's the third topic that Amie talked about, is the system.
Lack of clarity.
Yeah. And there's like, I asked the question, and I'm not the process person on our team, but I know as a major gifts person or any gift person, like not knowing that process, my stewardship, my follow-up, my confidence, it's all going down.
Yeah.
And so we created this flow. I've been having it in my head, and Amie and Veronica were able to put it onto paper, but literally it's like, a check comes in the mail and it lands on whose desk? What does that person do with that check? And then what does that who puts it into the CRM? And then what? And then what? And then what?
Right.
And we sometimes have organizations that don't want to do that step. And I'm telling you, if you're listening right now, stop everything you're doing, honestly. And if you don't know the flow of how gifts come via check, via online, a stock gift, I'm telling you, these stock gifts get forgotten so many times. And they're usually large gifts that you don't even acknowledge. So all that data that you just shared with us, it's these hangups that are so fixable. And we could have it polished up by the end of this session today at this podcast. And we could bring so much peace and harmony, and giving you time to actually do these stewardship touch points that Amie also shared about. They're easy things. They're things that we do every day in life. Just connecting with people. Hi, Veronica. How are you? I mean, but if we're stuck in all of that, we're going to be overwhelmed, and we're going to be always having to come to conversations and relationships with a sorry. We're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot to do that. And when we're feeling yucky about the way we showed up in the past, we don't show up very well in the present with our donors.
And to me, this is the one part where I'm very persistent with the client is there's lack of clarity and ownership for each step.
Yeah.
And so, for example, can I provide an example?
Yes.
We have a client
please.
in a development deep dive right now, and we make them go through this gift entry flow and acknowledgement flow. And we put down the numerous steps. It seems really nitty gritty, but we're like, you have to do it so that it becomes something you're used to doing every day. And they put new admin hire. We're like, that's great. But for the temporary time, who will own this piece to make sure, especially at year end, that it's going to be done? And that's the short term. And then there's the long term. Long term is the admin hire. We want to create operating procedures so that by the time they come into something that already has a rhythm and a flow. And to me, that's where I'm pretty particularly insistent on with the client to make sure that that gets done so that it becomes easy for you. I feel like that's pouring the foundation. That's pouring the concrete in the foundation. Who's going to put the nail in the
But
uniform?
process mapping, that's the process I think you're going through, is process mapping is often a way to very quickly unravel and reveal where the hang up is, right?
Yes.
Like there's a bottleneck in the system.
Yep.
We all feel like we're owning our individual piece. And I think it can start before the check lands on the desk, right? Like
Yes.
we've often been in conversations with executive directors and fundraisers who've had a donor offhandedly mention, like, yeah, I'm in. But what happens to that commitment? What's the follow-up? So that process map, I think it's so helpful. It's not just helpful for stewardship, but helpful for all of our processes. But in the stewardship process, I think that having that to create that pattern is the thing that is the like most applicable tool. But I want to talk about the creativity piece too.
Yes.
Because you mentioned, Amie, number 2 in your list, that you have ideas. And
It's
I want
a 28-page slide deck.
a 28-page slide deck.
It is.
Seriously?
So,
By season
okay, so
and by creative
That's
touches.
here's my rapid fire question.
Yes.
Think of something in that 28-page slide deck that stands out to you, that's unique, that someone has sent, one of your clients has done. Because I think when people only are thinking of their stewardship as that thank you letter, understanding what the next opportunities are and the creativity behind, because your stewardship, you all, what you do is beyond. It's just, it's incredible and it's excellent, and it is reflective of a culture of I see you and I value you. It's not a handout, give. It's a, we are part of this partnership work together. And I think people just think it's a thank you note. So, Amie, what is something on that 28-page slide deck that isn't a thank you note, that is a part of stewardship that like sparks you?
Yeah, I really like the texting, the texting option. You can get onto a texting basis with your donor if you have sent them a voicemail and then, they texted you back. Then you save it in your phone. And then down the road, when you have come into contact with that donor, had that relationship, you put the contact notes in the CRM. George has 2 cats that he loves. And then the next time you're thinking about George, hey, how are your cats? So it's that whole process of like making sure you're putting that note somewhere so you don't have to hold it in your head. And then also using the tool that George has communicated to you. He wants to text. He's a texter. He doesn't want a phone call. Then you can use that, to just deepen the relationship with George.
I love it. Erica, what about you?
My favorite one this year is a postcard that I sent to donors after my trip to New York. It was a family trip, and it was a sequence of things. I actually thought about this and pre-planned this, and we had an in-person event, and then I did a follow-up with an email, and in the PS, I said, PS, I'll be having this is an organization that totally family-focused, family reunification, and in the PS, I said, I'm going on my own family adventure for family time to New York City. And I had mentioned that to a few people at this event, too. And when I was in New York, I picked out some postcards, which were very inexpensive, by the way, like 10 cents. By the way, just know that. And I was like, I'm going to share my own family time moment with my donor. So it wasn't anything about the organization. And it just literally said, I had a wonderful time in New York City. This was my highlight of family time this summer. And then said, P.S., I'd love to hear about your family moment.
Oh, so
And again,
good.
it was, okay, well, I was on vacation, but I just literally, actually, Francisco picked up, my husband, he picked up the notes for me. But I was able to do those on the plane back. But those touches, it was about the work, but it wasn't about the work. It was that piece of like, Erica also loves family time.
Yeah.
And Erica also needs to have family time.
Erica's a whole person.
Yeah. And I also want to know about your family time because we all care about this work because we care about family. And I had so many text messages back, and they wanted to know what we saw on Broadway, where we ate, what we did. And so it brought the relationship to this whole other level. And again, it was super simple. It was like 2 sentences. It took a little bit of time, but it wasn't on organization letterhead. It wasn't marketed. I love doing little pieces like that. I think this is my favorite place to spend my time. If I could just send gifts and do like little notes to people, I would all the time. And I just want to share just a hair about the experience of how I came to creative stewardship was because I was a one-person ED and with a failing database. When I say failing, I mean like I don't know, maybe like 3% of people were still active. Like I had to bring life back to this organization, and I knew I had to lean in on relationship, and I was a one-person show. So I had to figure out, how do I do this quickly yet like in a meaningful way? And I've also gone all the way to the other spectrum of being a major gifts officer, where I'm, trying to raise $10 million a year. And that's also a whole other beast. And so I think that wide experience of being the one person in a little shop and then a one person in a big shop, I've been able to like kind of create this kind of 28 page document of like things that I would do with my friends.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a good frame for it.
Yeah. And so I have some friends that I can, Amie talked about texting. I do this all the time in my stewardship. If I'm on site somewhere, I'm taking a video of how I am today, letting them hear the noise, like, oh, these are the cookies you donated. I wanted you to see these kids and hear them. Just hear them. Sometimes it's an audio message that I send via text so they can hear my excitement and hear the noise in the background. So we're not looking for like these polished touches. I love gifts. You don't have to spend a lot of time on gifts, but gifts take time and they take planning. And if you can't execute the gift, find the creative people in your life who can help you execute those gifts. I have a few people that I'm like, I have this idea. And, I call up my friend Christina and she's like, I can do that for you.
Amazing.
But you have to have a plan.
Yeah.
And you have to think a little bit deeper about who this person is, what's going to connect with them. Like I think of Amie and the cat. Like I could see you sending George a picture of you and your cat. Like, hey, I'm here with my kitty today at the office and I was thinking about yours. It's about creating belonging.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It is.
Absolutely.
It's about seeing people.
Absolutely.
Okay, Veronica, what's your favorite?
For me, oftentimes when we come into these organizations, they're often very overextended. Mm-hmm. And so we're always trying to think of ways to bring people like volunteers and board, for example, into those stewardship activities.
Ooh, yes.
Because you can't do it all. Mm-hmm. And that's where, and boards, honestly, they're a little afraid because they don't know what fundraising means. And so one of our favorite ways, we just did this the menu of donor touchpoints yesterday, is a vision party. Mm. And it's basically, I was thinking of the organization that you were just talking about with the 15 donors.
Yeah.
It's those 15 donors or your board, they're probably champions of your mission.
Yeah.
And as champions of your mission, they themselves have probably 10 to 15 friends that they have that you can invite to a vision party. So the ask isn't really about fundraising. It's not asking for donations, but the ask is to come and hear about your impact and your mission. Mm-hmm. And so you're inviting people and it steadily grows. Yep. So we've suggested to this organization yesterday, let's calendar a vision party for you. You can, and the ED was so excited. She just wanted to be the first one to start it off and invite her neighbors and friends. Yeah. And so inviting the board members to come as well so they can see it in action. And it's very inexpensive. Uh-huh. That's the thing. Some of these things that they want to do are oftentimes very expensive, out of budget. So we're trying to think of very creative ways that it could be inexpensive and also it's not led by you. Mm-hmm. Like other people are championing your mission and they're excited to talk about it with their own friends. And it's really easy to do because it's not an ask right away. It's awkward for people. Sometimes they don't know how to do that fundraising ask. And we're really saying leave your wallets at home. And just come and hear about this. Meet the ED. Come and have some charcuterie or coffee and dessert, whatever it is that you want to do. Bring, they can come and hear about it. So personally, that's my favorite because it's creating a community, broadening your community, and bringing them in. Yeah. And you invite them to come in if they want.
Well, and you're inviting them in using story, which I think are two powerful.
You got to what I was gonna say.
Go.
No, I like the two things I'm hearing repeatedly in every one of your answers, and I would be remiss as the storyteller not to name it, is really all of these. You're telling stories.
Yes.
You're hearing someone else's story.
Yep.
And telling stories in a way to make the distance between them and the organization shorter.
Yes. And actually, my husband said that yesterday. He said, you talk an awful lot about stories at work. And I was like, yes, but we're building systems around the stories.
Yes.
So that they can be told all year long well.
Yeah, and I think that's where systems serve people. When systems are functioning, they don't need to pay as much time to that tactical, technical part and can be more deeply embedded in the storytelling. And the other piece is what if we just continued to substitute the word ask for invite for a while and see what that does to our relationships to donors and to the experiences that we're having with people. I think people get so hung up, same with the idea of stewardship or fundraising. I don't understand fundraising. It's like, you do, actually, because you understand being in relationship with people. That what if people get so tripped, I don't want to make the ask, the big ask, whatever, that is. It's like, you're inviting someone in. And to your point, belonging. It's about belonging. And, when I look at this list, it's when people walked away from that second gift in 2 years because they weren't made to feel like they belonged there. It wasn't necessarily you took my $250 and didn't steward it well or do whatever. It was like, I did that because I was giving you a signal. I was knocking on your door and you didn't open it and you didn't answer it. So I went to another door, and so I think if we start thinking about these things in human terms, they get so jargoned all over the place that if we lead with them as human terms first, the systems support that. But the systems aren't going to get you anywhere if you're not doing the human work.
Exactly. We want the systems to do all the work, but we have to, the system is the support. We lead. And this is why we often talk, if you're going to do one thing in your fundraising, do stewardship. Because stewardship means be in relationship. And a donor, if you don't send them a fancy marketed annual appeal or report every year, but you called them or you took them out to lunch or coffee, or you invited them into the office to help you stuff envelopes. I mean, invite them in.
Reconnect them.
Yes, learn about them. And that's where you're going to see the magic. It's more about that. And this is where I get a little bit like, some people think I'm scrappy. That's fine. I just think I'm human. And honestly, those are the things that hit the heart. And so I want to, if you're listening to this today, you can do what you're doing in a more simple way. And I promise it's going to resonate with people. Because at the end of the day, we just want to be who we are. And we want to bring what we have to the thing that we care about and let it be celebrated and see it making an impact in the world.
Okay, so you asked us before when we first came into the studio, you said, why are we talking about stewardship today? That is why we're talking about stewardship today. It's the one thing that makes the biggest impact. And I want to yes and you for a second, Veronica. Are you familiar with that term, the yes and? It's an improv term. The gathering opportunity to invite people to come and learn about the organization. We had Paul Zach on the beginning of the season, and he talked about what moves people to action, satisfaction, it's really feeling like their time was valued, that their experience was worth it. And one of those critical elements for the brain processing is an action that they can take. And that action can be something small. Like, so when you leave here today, we're going to ask you to, and it could be carry us in your heart. It could be, we're going to ask you to sign up to volunteer or express what you're most interested in. Or we're going to ask you to be a part of the legislative initiative we have going forward. Or we're going to ask you to tell a friend about our work. But that call to action tells the brain that they're not just being presented with the problem, but now they can be a part of the solution and they're invited in. And it actually is a relief, like a pressure valve relief on the brain.
And the one thing we do leave them with is that it's an activation point, which is not a give me $50, please. But it's I would love to have coffee with the executive director. I would love to volunteer at one of your sites. I would love to have a Zoom meeting with the board member.
I love it.
And so it's really tailored to the organization. Like, what do you want the activation point to be? Do you want to have brunch with people? Then put that down.
If you don't want
let's
20
find
brunches.
something else.
Exactly.
So what happens when all this works? So when you create a system, when you have a clean CRM, which I want to talk more about, Amie, but when you have a process and you're doing regular touch points and cultivation, I want to know an experience you've had or something you've witnessed where you've seen it really work. Erica, what's been like that's good stewardship for you?
Well, just this week, we're like on week 6 or 7 of a deep dive with the organization that has a brand new ED. When we met her, she was super overwhelmed, and there really was no process happening. Nobody could identify the process. And the outcome, like yesterday, she said, for the first time since I started, I feel like I have so much more ease and peace. And I look at my to-do list, and it's manageable. I can do it. And so this is the thing that I see the most because it's a shift of a mindset and energy.
Yeah.
And you're getting back to that person's superpower. You know, they're no longer having to manage all these little tasks. And this person is an amazing people person. And all I want to do is free her up to be able to go.
To be a people person.
Exactly. And so this is what I see. When we do the work, and honestly, when we do a deep dive, it takes 8 weeks usually, give or take. But things start happening.
Yeah.
And what we saw in this particular deep dive is after each week, there were action steps that were taking place. And she is in her stewardship groove. Like she's like doing it. But I just love that she gets to show up and just be her. And she gets to talk about the work that's happening within the state. And it is just magical. And to see her light and confident and excited, I know with that kind of mindset, that's going to trickle. I already see it trickling. It's trickling to the board.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we talk a lot about empowering your board to help with stewardship activities. And we're not necessarily saying, hey, you go do all the asks, but can you pick up the phone and say thank you? We all know how to say thank you. And they can. And it starts to create a stewardship culture that is just what we do. And then it trickles. When your ED is like, hey, we're doing this. I do this. This is what it looks like. I'm modeling that to you. Guess what happens? Your staff is like, oh, wow, we all get to do this. We talk about how it's an opportunity, a team opportunity, not a should. We should do this, but it's an opportunity. But you shift the culture where it's like, we want to do this. We want to be with people. We want to be in front of people. And that's what shifts to from transactional to transformational. And it's not about what we can get in revenue, but it's how we show up as a community.
Yep.
And so I know I'm talking kind of broad, but it's that broad shift that lets us really just show up and do meaningful relationships on a daily. We talked about that on a daily basis. Not like, oh no, we have an appeal going out. We have an event. We better call some people. No, I think that's kind of gross personally. I'm just going to say it.
I think your word is slimy.
Actually, I do. I say, ooh, that's slimy.
That's
I
slimy.
do because that doesn't show. I mean, every once in a while, you're like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot to call you. But if you have a relationship with the person, you can say, I should have called you a month ago and I didn't, but I'd be remiss if I didn't call you today. And that happens in life. So, I mean, that's the biggest shift I see is like you clean up, you kind of clean up the systems and the administrative things that are going to support you and hold all these pieces together. And you just have so many opportunities that you get to do on a daily basis that don't take so much runway to make it possible.
Yep.
Amie, what about you? You've been quiet joining us remotely. So let's pull you back into this. What's like an example you've seen or a story you've seen where it's something really became possible through stewardship?
For stewardship, well, one example that I really love is we had this on our reply device, on our reply card. We like to put "I give because" on there, and so that the donor can write why they are why they're giving.
That's very useful information.
It is, and then we track that. Obviously, I'm going back to the CRM, put the note in there, and then this donor had let us know that she had been on a trip down to Mexico and she connected to this school that we were telling a story about. And so we had sent out an ask. We were trying to fund a new kitchen for this school. And we had remembered, we had, written her a note back. Hey, that's so awesome. So we had the relationship and she knew that we knew that she loved that place. Well, she reached out and said, I am retiring this year. And for my birthday, I'm going to fund that whole kitchen.
What?
So it was those little pieces that kind of led to this big gift. And we just did the little things. We did them well. And we didn't even have to ask.
Yep.
I mean, we didn't have to ask personally.
Such an amazing story. I mean, that to me is like the key, right? Good stewardship means they step in when they see the need. Veronica, what's the story you've experienced where stewardship made a difference?
I think you were there. We were partnering with this particular client. And for me, particularly, I love it when leaders themselves feel empowered.
Yes.
Oftentimes they feel a little flustered, not sure. And then you start to see how they're becoming a little bit more confident in their steps.
Yes.
And so the person I'm thinking of in particular, an executive director, she was more excited and confident about going to lunch with specific donors and inviting them to the need. And then she became stronger in that. And so I think time and time again, it looks different, different EDs.
Yeah.
But when they feel empowered by the steps that they're taking, they're able to share more passionately. And oftentimes they're the biggest and best spokespersons for their organization.
Yeah.
And you want them to be there. You really want them to be there. And so my desire is always to see them empowered like that. So that's my one story. I think she felt so much more confident.
Yeah. And found the joy in fundraising.
And found the joy in fundraising.
It wasn't just about the ask.
Yep.
Well, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to dive into some of the how-tos because I think that's an important tool. So we'll be right back.
Ready for your hard work to yield more funds at your next event? Join us at Elevate, a nonprofit fundraising event conference designed to bring our community together and make planning successful events easier. Register today for this hybrid conference on March 3rd and 4th, 2026 in Portland, Oregon, or join us online from anywhere. This isn't just another conference. You'll walk away with battle-tested strategies, hands-on tools, and proven templates that top fundraisers use to raise millions. Your mission deserves fully funded success. Register today at swaimstrategies.com.
Welcome back. We are here with the Cause Catalyst Co., who are brilliant. 1, 2, fractional fundraisers. If you do not know what that is, you should, because they should be joining you. But 3, we are talking about a very important topic today, which is the idea of stewardship. A lot of people hear that and have already turned off the podcast. Come back. It'll be fine.
It's fun, we promise.
That actually, it's an invite in, right? I think if we just keep thinking about it versus it being this big monolith of things, it's about seeing people and being with people. And at the core of stewardship is relationship.
Yeah.
And for some folks, that's very intuitive. For some folks, it's not. And for some folks, learning to be a good fundraiser is learning how to be in relationship with donors and what that can look like. Erica, for those to whom it's not intuitive, what resources do you recommend for anybody who is looking to create a stewardship plan for their organization?
I mean, aside from engaging,
aside
Cause
from
Catalyst.
hiring Cause Catalyst,
Always an option. But
Always
what
an
other
option.
resources?
Right.
So I would say looking at your calendar. And I like to backwards engineer all the things that we do with stewardship. And I often encourage people, the amount of time you spend on fundraising and working on appeals and asks and events, would you put at least that much time into stewardship? And we do that by looking at our calendar. And so on our website, we have lots of different types of calendars. My favorite is the 12-month view, where I literally put all of my anchor activation. So if I'm having an appeal go out this month and I'm having an event this month, I know where I'm busy. And then back in maybe a decade ago, I would have an easy month like July and I'd be like, I'm not going to do anything. But we can't do that. That's our opportunity, right? When we do this calendar, you have an opportunity to be like, okay, I actually have time here, here, and here where I can do something. And then we go back to our giving table, which is also on our website. And you go back to your giving table and you're like, okay, I only have time to reach out to 10 donors. And then you're like, oh, perfect. I have 10 major donors. I am going to do something intentional for those 10 people. And so this is how I start to think about stewardship and scaling. If it's if you, right now you say, I don't really do a lot of stewardship, I would start with your calendar and you'd figure out some time. When we make an appointment to go get our teeth cleaned, we make it. Because if we don't go, you're not going to get it, right? And
shoot, I need to do that.
Yes, do that. But so we have to make some appointments with ourselves for stewardship on our calendars, for ourselves, for our teams. And you need to talk about that. If you are in a development team, you talk about that every time you meet. Because if you're not talking about it, you're not going to be doing it. So I think when we start to have a plan, then we start to think about depending on like where it's landing in the year, what can we be talking about? What's the opportunity?
The two best fundraisers I know both have call time and like email letter writing time on their calendar. And then they have a folder. One of them in particular has a folder where she just continually adds notes to herself of this is who I need to call during my call time. Or this is why I need to make a note of this in my next note. So she is constantly kind of just like keeping that top of mind, scheduling it. And it's like a dedicated like, do not interrupt. This is happening. You can't move around it. You can't schedule over it. I'm interested about your process a little bit of the audit, because for someone who hasn't engaged you, but they're looking to try to do this work like from the jump, there's a couple of tools we can direct folks toward. You all did a deep dive intensive with us on a webinar that we have posted on our website, and we'll provide a link to, and I think it's shared on your website too. It's a 2-day course on stewardship. So we'll share that. Also, I think it's valuable to follow the work of the community-centric fundraising, because I think they share a lot of stewardship resources, but also, not to discount donor-centered fundraising, which also Penelope Burke's book on donor-centered fundraising is a great sort of textbook how-to. I think the concern in donor-centered fundraising is oftentimes we center the donor so much we forget that our mission and programs have to be centered. But Tammy Zonker has just come out with her book, Calling All Heroes, that is a blend of the best of both of those practices. So some good starting points for people to be able to tackle. When someone says, okay, we need to do this, someone's convinced now that they need to figure out how to apply this, they want to go to what you talked about, Veronica, that like initial starting point of with your data and understanding the narrative and starting an audit. Amie, what does that process look like for you all? Like, how would you coach someone to start to develop a plan or do that sort of self-reflection time?
I mean, we have a tool that we use called the Donor Love Audit, and it's on our website. It's free download. That's one really like it's a high level overview that's really all encompassing of what is the donor experience like. And when we're thinking about our donors, we're also thinking about our volunteers and our board, the people that are really connected to our organization. We want to think about the broad community of these are all the people who are making this happen. So we're looking at the timing of thank yous, the messaging they receive, the accuracy of their records. So how and when are donors thanked? How often do they hear from the organization? What is the messaging that they are hearing? Is it reflecting the mission of your organization? Does it communicate the impact that your constituent has had in this organization? And then how easy is it to find and track the information? We're talking about that again. And then any gaps in the donor journey. And it's really a simple exercise that can give you a real honest look at where things are at right now. What are your current stewardship practices? And then the goal is to bring clarity on what your organization's already doing well. And then it identifies where there's room to grow. And then, we know that when leaders see that whole donor journey clearly, the whole donor experience from what they are telling us and then what we are telling them, then they can see where those small changes can make a big impact. And that's the goal of the Donor Love Audit.
I can imagine that gives people some ahas, just like obvious things that we overlook in our day-to-day, right?
But they're so easy to fix then. I mean, when we do the donor audit, it's like, okay, you're going to do this thing and it's not going to surprise you, just FYI. But then it's like they gave themselves permission to take a moment again and be like, yes, that is a problem and it's a problem that we can fix. So let's fix it. And then we can move on to something else. So we see the Donor Love Audit, like people have amazing like moments where like, oh my gosh, we know what we need to do. And then from that, you get to move into like the giving table. Yeah. And I mean, I thought you were going to maybe share the story even we did yesterday where we were helping somebody do a giving table and they're like, I don't even know how to do this. And literally Amie walked them through it. Okay, give me a list of this many donors. And it was like 3 color coded, and depending on the size of the team, we're going to recommend different things. If you're a one-person shop, we're not going to give you, like, we're not going to say, okay, you're going to be stewarding 200 major donors. That's a major gifts officer. And so it's really scalable. So Amie literally in like 3 seconds was like, okay, let's take the top 10%. Those are in pink. All right, the mid donors, they're going to be in green. And then everybody else is going to be in yellow. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh.
That's where I focus. That's where my time goes.
Yeah.
And in 5 minutes, there we had a plan.
Yeah.
You know.
Veronica, yes, I've seen you present on the stewardship calendar.
Yes.
Talk to me about what the opportunity is in that calendar to get and keep the rest of the team working on the same goal, right? I think sometimes it's just this one lone person staring at a wall calendar, you know, and those pieces. So can you talk about, I think there's laying it out and they're seeing it and they're seeing where direct activity, how does that then get amplified across the team?
Well, you need to hear from the team first.
Well, yes,
So
of course.
that's one of the first things we do is we hear from everybody's like passion.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different passion, you know, about what they want to see in the year for the organization. And so you hear from them. And then we put down the obvious anchor moments like mission milestones, events.
Yep.
When's your gala? When are you on vacation? That's the biggest one.
Yep.
Because we say you don't want to have a big gala on the week that you're on vacation. And so it's making.
And are you going on vacation?
Are you going on vacation? Go on vacation,
Yes.
please.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
take a break. So it's just taking a moment to see where everybody is at. Like, what are you doing personally? Because that has to come into play, right?
Yep.
And so you put down events, you put down your year-end reports, and this is where stewardship comes into play. It's easy to note down all your asks or invitations, but you want to also be able to put back when you want to report back to those people
Yes.
and talk to them about the impact of this invitation. You know, them answering the invitation, and also maybe those vision parties, or maybe you want to do a donor appreciation event. And by calendaring this throughout the year, you see where it's too heavy and the staff is just overwhelmed. There's just no way so do it a different month. Usually we see June and
Or a
July.
different way.
Or a different way. You know, it helps you talk about it. I mean, I have this calendar in my kitchen for my whole family to see because we have a lot going on. We have
Most families.
Yeah, most families. And we have a lot going on and we color code it. And it's just so that we know that we're all on the same page. And when there's one day that there's just too much stuff, my husband and I have to look at each other and we have to say no.
Yeah.
You know, so it's being able as a staff and as a team, being able to say, we can say yes to this. We can add another invitation or appeal because there's time and we're all on board.
Yeah.
Or this month is a horrible month to do that. And so it's just being able, there's something about, I love a calendar. I love spreadsheets. And so by putting it on there, you can see, oh man, we can all be on the same page here. So.
I think that is so critical when folks are feeling isolated in their
Yes.
role or like no one's helping me. It's like there actually might be a reason why nobody has bandwidth to help.
Yep.
Also, conversely, sometimes there's just this idea in people's heads about like, I don't have any time and I don't have it and when you lay it out, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
huh.
And then you backwards.
interesting. I
we
can see
backwards
that.
engineer
Yeah.
it. So a lot of times, as you know, when there's a gala in September, there's a lot of rushing in August. But we tell them by calendaring it in January, we say, reach out to sponsors, open up your events page.
Yeah.
Make sure those are ready to go starting in January. And you lay out the steps so that you have some bandwidth by the time that that's coming around. And so we're trying to anchor those moments for clients, like think about it in steps, you know, think about the process so that it's not all lumped up in 1 month.
I'll tell you, I am not a systems thinker. I do love a good system though, but it is an intentional practice to create them.
Yes.
And as our team has grown, we rely on a regular touch point retreat that is a breakdown of our systems where we literally go through each one and do some process mapping and do some resolution around what the year is going to look like and what the calendar looks like and identify where there's holes or where there's opportunities. And developing those systems is not something that one person should be responsible for.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It has to be a
team.
team effort. And sometimes we step into that because it gives them permission to talk about it as a team,
Yeah.
about the difficulties of certain things. And so we're coming in as an outside perspective, helping them walk through those steps. And so I love it.
I love a calendar and a spreadsheet.
I love a spreadsheet and a good calendar. And
Well, so we go through this process.
Yes.
We develop sort of next steps for everyone. Everyone has their role. You're checking in. Each person's doing their stewardship. And then someone leaves and it all falls apart because we're not continually maintaining information. That's where a clean database and a good CRM can come as your saving grace.
and a standard operating procedure.
Oh,
I'm big on that.
Okay.
You love
Something
that.
I love that. So something we always come into. This is
So
my-
I can go pull the manual off
So
the
you
shelf.
can pull the manual,
Open to
Exactly.
page 12.
yes.
write down those steps. And so because we work as a fractional
Yeah.
fundraisers, we want to make sure that we leave you with information. And so especially if there's a new hire, we want to make sure that you know the exact steps we took, who we contacted, what checkbox we checked off in order to get to a certain place.
I love that.
And we leave them with the calendar. I'm big on that on our team because I'm the project manager of our team. So I always want to leave you with the standard operating procedure. And we also have a roles matrix, which shows who leads the effort, who executes the effort, and who is your backup. So that when you leave or when a staff member
there's
leaves,
a clear path.
it's more about the role itself and not the person.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
And so it could continue on. And so that's where I like to play. I mean, the relational aspect, I learn a lot from Erica with the donor or a community member, but this kind of stuff, I just love it.
So a new person comes in.
Yes.
They're assigned some stewardship activities.
Yes.
They see their role clearly laid out. They have to call Carolyn. They've never met Carolyn before. They look in their database and nothing's there. Or conversely, a whole donor history is there where we now know that Carolyn has 2 cats. We know why she gives. We know how long she's been giving. The CRM is such a critical piece of this puzzle. And so often we hear organizations say, do we have to have a CRM? We hear organizations say we use paper, we use notes,
I've
we
got an
use
Excel
spreadsheets. Amie, you spend lots of time in the CRM tool. And we get calls all the time from folks like, I am trying to navigate the CRM world and figure this out. Usually for one of 2 things. They don't have one and they need to invest in their first CRM, or they have something that's huge and they can't make it work for them. Like, a Blackbaud tool that is like a tiny organization with 20 donors utilizing a tool that has all the bells and whistles and it's just not being utilized because it's hard to navigate. When you're talking to organizations that are mid-sized, smaller organizations, what CRM tools do you recommend?
I mean, there are a lot of good ones out there. We love Bloomerang. Donor Doc is a new one that it's built around stewardship. We haven't tried it out, but we've done a demo and it was fantastic. We like Little Green Light. That one is very affordable and it has a lot of capabilities for a small to mid-sized nonprofit. There are a lot of good ones out there that aren't these Ferraris, and also aren't a spreadsheet. And there are different price points, but they all have features that can help you streamline your stewardship. We always say that the best CRM is the one that your team will consistently use.
Yes.
But I don't know, for some specific tools, I like CRM features that let you automate tasks. So you're not automating the stewardship. But so like if a gift comes in at a certain level, for example, it could trigger a task to someone on your team to reach out to that donor in a personal way. So that's kind of how we use some of the automation so that it triggers a personal touch. Also, we were talking about spreadsheets. We do still use spreadsheets for like big stewardship tasks like post-event or post-campaign. And we have a team of volunteers or our board working on a spreadsheet like to thank donors and put in notes and dates and names and who talked to who. Well, we like to import those. We like to configure those columns to import that into your CRM as contact note or interaction note. So we still use it that way, and then that information's captured in the donor record. So like you said, we run into situations where there's been a change of staff. There's not a standard operating procedure. The CRM has been abandoned. And sometimes the gut reaction is to get a new database. But we like to recommend, okay, clean up, learn how to use the tool that you have. Before you put the time and money into switching a database, let's see what the CRM can do, and let's learn about how it works. And for one client recently that we talked to this week, she's diving into the CRM that was abandoned, and she's figuring out how it works. She's setting up new donation forms. She's looking into the automations. And so use your database as another member of your team.
So shout out to our team at Bloomerang. They're actually sponsors of the podcast. We love them because of the fact that they are very like nonprofit focused and very human focused. They're like people first. And in that, they, I think, are a tool that can last with an organization, like they can grow or shrink. And then we're big fans of all the other tools you mentioned too, because oftentimes I think that when we get into the Ferrari version, we dismiss it and don't use it because it's just complicated to use. Well, we're going to take a short break to hear from one of our partners, in fact, perhaps Bloomerang. And when we come back, we're going to jump into the fundraising elevator. We'll be right back.
Change. It doesn't happen on its own. It happens on purpose. Thanks to nonprofits that believe a brighter future is not just possible, but needed and deserved. And that connect people to causes and turn moments of generosity into movements. That's why Bloomerang is built for purpose, to raise the bar on what's possible and help every act of giving lead to more. Because when the bottom line is a better world, no goal is too lofty. Bloomerang, built for purpose.
Welcome back. We are here with our friends at the Cause Catalyst Co. I love this team so much. I having a front row seat for what they do for organizations is just inspiring because I'm not a stewardship person. I'm not an ask person. But relationships and stories I am, and seeing what happens when systems are in place to let those things sing is so good. So, Erica, talk to us about your development deep dives. What are they, and what are you discovering with them?
Well, we created the deep dive because of a response to what we were seeing in the field of organizations and their development offices just not really understanding what their office is doing and how they're doing it. I mean, I'm just being honest.
Yeah,
like people came to us and they're like, we just need to start over. And I'm like, no, you probably don't need to start over. And so we created the deep dive because it was an opportunity to look at what is happening, literally a deep dive into your development office. What's happening? What's the highlight? What's the low light? What's the frustration? What is tripping you up? And so it's a 7 to 9 week engagement with our team where we go into the nitty gritties and what is your office actually doing? What opportunities are you missing? How does it function? What opportunities are before us? And it's the work that we don't really do. It's like cleaning out a closet.
We actually wish that we can do this work before we engage them fractionally, which is why we created this.
I think that's
and we created this too because we know like these steps that we created in these sessions, if you do them, you will be off and sailing in no time. And we're really passionate about that. So we're like, if you do a deep dive, you won't really need the Cause Catalyst for much longer. You actually solve your own problems in this guided process. What I love about it too is we created it in a way that onboards your team to the process. Sometimes we do a lot of consulting with just like one key member of a team. And you might be a one-person shop and you're thinking, oh, I can't do it with the team. No, I would encourage you to invite in a board member, a super volunteer, because what we're seeing when teams come into a deep dive, it's that ownership. And it's being able to hear the different voices of like, because I'm in this role, that thing doesn't work for me. Or if I knew that's how you needed it to be, then I could do this. And so it's getting all the key people at the table to really critically think about how can we make our development office stronger, simpler, and more impactful? How do we lighten the load so that we can show up in a better way?
And if that hasn't like sold everyone on it, I want to address that you said it's like cleaning out the closet.
Yeah, I think that's
to
the best
me, I immediately got a sense of anxiety, and Kristen here probably got a sense of relief.
I was like, yes,
the
let's clean
cleaning
out
out
the
the closet
closet.
analogy. I'm like, what are we gonna find in there? But you all make it fun, and you bring so much joy to the work that who cares what scary skeletons exist in the closet, because
And nothing scares us.
and there's nothing that scares you, but you're going to make it joyful and find solutions. And I think for me as a leader, that's sometimes the thing that stops me from doing the process is I'm not sure that I have the solution. But when you're there, you are bringing the solution and creating a shared collaborative space that feels really celebratory, which
It's a work with you session.
Yeah.
So truly, it's a homework up front. Let me be upfront with that in terms of why is the closet this way? Just trying to determine it.
Survival.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to speak to that a little bit because like I've definitely had my own seasons of surviving and fundraising.
Yeah.
And this is why I came to the Cause Catalyst. And the work that we do, we want to make sure that nobody ever feels alone.
No.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to be alone cleaning your closet. And we're going to be there with you, and we're going to help you make decisions about what stays, what goes, what gets remodeled in this. But you won't be alone in this work. And even this week, we had somebody like stuck on one of the assignments. Give us a call. We're going to walk you through it. And we don't do the work actually. It's like the client is working through it, and we're guiding them. But we're all in this together. And again, it goes back to kind of our community roots. Like we want all of the organizations in our community to be strong.
Yeah.
And that means we want you as the fundraiser to be strong. And part of the work that we do is building that community so that you have a resource. Like our nonprofit community as a whole is so generous, and we need to lean on each other through this work, because our work, it's messy and it's not easy, and we don't always see a clear path forward. But when we're willing to be vulnerable and we engage with our peers and we say, I don't know what to do. Well, we might not either, but together we'll figure out a solution.
Yeah, I love that. Well, in the spirit of generosity, we ask everybody that comes on the podcast to step into the fundraising elevator with us, where we're all headed up. And we ask folks to sort of think about what's that one tip you would offer our fundraising friends out there so that they can continue to head up. Amie, what's a tip you would offer folks out there right now?
I've already talked a lot about the CRM, so I won't talk about that again.
but the CRM is tip number one.
CRM is a member of your team. I will say that your stewardship does not have to be so polished. It doesn't have to be so perfect when you put it out there. It just needs to be personal or relational, human. There can be a spelling error. It's okay. it just shows that a human did this. Yeah. That's one encouragement I would have.
That's great advice. Alice Ferris interviewed with us back in November, and she said, I think right now with so much change happening, we get so hung up on perfection, and we just need to be in communication.
Yep.
So I like solidly endorse that advice.
I love that. Erica?
We talked about this a couple of times during our chat today, but I think it's about staying in motion. You talked about like having a schedule of like, I'm going to make this many phone calls a day. And I would figure out what your rhythm is personally and schedule it and just stay in motion and keep things moving.
I love it. Veronica?
I would say design a process where your team is on the same page and you can do.
Yeah.
And then build on top of that. So listen to your team and then design something together and move forward, and it will grow.
I think the interesting thing there is that so often when people aren't moving at all, that a very reasonable, doable, sustainable, bite-by-bite plan is monumentally impactful. Yeah. So this brilliant team, the Cause Catalyst Co., is going to be joining us at Elevate, so we hope you will join them there. But if you want to find their tools and resources, we have them linked here in the show notes, but also go visit their website, thecausecatalyst.co.com. We'll make sure to link the past episode and all of the tools that we talked about today. Thank you all for being good stewards, community leaders, friends in this work. We're so lucky to do this work with you. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
you're right here at Avenue in Portland, Oregon, or joining us online, it is time to take our fundraising event to school.
Gathering is just so important right now. It's always been important, but I think being with your people is extremely important.
Your guests should believe in your organization and understand that they are the community that make it possible. Their power combined with others is immense. We need spaces where people remember that the world is changed by those who show up together, who act together, who give together.
I think I've been coming to Elevate since Elevate started. It is every year, there is fresh new content that is very much tailored to the moment that we're in. And it's easy to know that we are in a moment.
Events are changing. The landscape of Portland is changing, so it's nice to be in a room where new ideas are coming up.
Last year I came to this event and we were introduced to this event arc. With that event arc, we increased our funding that evening by 23%. 23.
I love the atmosphere. I love the energy. I'm already thinking about the events this year and how they can be better. Samantha Swaim and Kristen Steele are geniuses. Geniuses. I cannot tell you how incredible and thoughtful they are when it comes to how you should set up your event for ultimate success.
Because the people in this room, you can feel the passion that they have for their nonprofits, for the events that they put on for their communities, and Feather wants to be a part of that. So we have loved the vibe since the moment we stepped in the room.
At North by Northeast, I am currently our Development and Communications Director, and it's really been great for me to use all those skills that I've had, both learning from Samantha and from Elevate.
The AV department has been a partner with Elevate since the very first year in 2018. It's one of the ways that we can support our nonprofit partners to make their events shine and get better every year.
I attended last year, and that was also my first time in the Avenue, and I was blown away by the production quality of this space. I loved the live streaming aspect. It was so fun.
Elevate's such a lively room, and there's so many great people. I've run into so many people that I know as community partners and colleagues, and it's just a really joyful experience to be here in community with everybody that's helping to support the important nonprofits in Portland.
I've already started building a network, and I've learned so much all before lunch. My hand is cramping from all the notes that I've taken.
Just having everybody share insights from every direction, even if you thought you knew everything, you're learning something.
We are, of course, in the development department of our nonprofit organization.
And just as in the name, we are looking to elevate our events and take it higher, raise more money for our families, and just do more with our nonprofit.
Humans give to humans. Every single donor, no matter the size of their gift, is doing something really meaningful.
Words, they're extremely powerful. That's why I'm here to kind of showcase little shifts in language that would help us continue to uplift our communities, particularly those of color.
They are in control of the story, of what's in it, whether it's a video or whether it's their speech, preparing them, and then also making sure that you highlight how their story is helping the organization.
The work you do matters. And what's more than that, you matter. It is critical that this feels like a community, not only that you can be a part of, but that you are a part of.
The Fundraising Elevator is produced by Swaim Strategies at the studios of the AV department. The program is produced and directed by Steve Osborne, with audio engineering and original music by Dwayne Anderson and Heidi Christensen. Video production by John Collier. Graphic design by Pendulum Creative Group. And voiceover by Josh Boykin.
Friends, before we leave you, we want to ask for your help to make the podcast grow. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please like, follow, subscribe to the Fundraising Elevator. And if you're getting a lot out of the show, please share it with a friend and leave a review. These things help make sure that the podcast continues heading up. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Are Are you ready to engage supporters and grow your base with your own podcast? Then let us introduce you to our partners at the AV department in Portland, Oregon. In addition to delivering exceptional live event audiovisual production and videography, they also have a top-tier production studio and an expert team ready to take your content ideas to the next level. Contact the AV department to schedule a consultation and start bringing your podcast vision to life.